Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the weekly Shlog. Sorry that we missed a week. I spent 4 days in Missoula, Montana with my dad, doing some fly fishing, catching up, having fun. So, yeah, I wasn't around to shoot videos, but I do have a little bit of video that I shot last week that will be on this week's Shlog. It's actually pertaining to the KLX140, which we're now waiting for one more part, I hope. Anyway, but yeah, that's coming back together. So I've got that video of us building the head. Anyway, that'll be later in this video. So, yeah. Anyway, welcome to my shop here in Montrose, Colorado, called Highland Cycles, where we show you guys all kinds of cool dirt bike stuff. Every now and then, the occasional amazing, beautiful, gorgeous two-stroke street bike stuff and suspension stuff. Anyway, all kinds of things. If that sounds interesting, stick with us. If you end up enjoying this video, you're new here, consider subscribing because that'd be super duper cool. Helps us out, makes you cooler, makes you look better to your significant other. All those good things. Anyway, let's get to it. Alright guys, first on the lift is this 2011 250 or 350 SX, anyway, whatever, KTM. Starts right up. We rebuilt, or yeah, well, put a new fuel pump in it because it wasn't getting gas. I think that was on an earlier Shlog. It was running good. Guy took it, rode it, but when it would get hot, it would not restart, but he let it cool. Anyway, so I believe we have a stator problem, so let's dive in and check that. First things first, I think we got to take the seat and tank off. I'm hoping I can leave the tank hooked up so I can run it and see if it changes, and see if I can do it really quickly. These bikes are pretty interesting. The way KTM runs their fuel injection is that they run everything off the battery. The ignition, the pump, timing, well, obviously that's part of the ignition. But anyway, all that stuff's off the battery, and the stator just charges the battery. Then they obviously have to have a crank position sensor. That's what these wires are right there. They come out, and it's just a crank position sensor. The stator doesn't actually generate the spark power. So I think what's happening is that thing's breaking down. So we're going to test it now, cold, and then we're going to fire it up and test it again. So let's get in here and figure out what it is, what the ohms are right now. All right, guys, so we got it up in the air. Let me just show you. These ones are actually quite convenient. We can test everything with the tank on it, and it's nice. So wires coming out of the stator. There's actually more than just the two. Anyway, I'll show you. They come up here, trace them, find them. They come up here. Now, there are two AC wires, those yellow wires. Those go to the regulator rectifier, which is right there, that then sends power to the battery. Excuse me. These are the pulsar coil wires, and I just know that those are pulsar coil wires on the KTM because, well, I mean, I watch them come out of there, but also I know that they're not part of the rest of the stator because I've just seen lots of them. But it's the red and green wire. It's always in a blue plug, it seems like, with KTMs. So let's pop that apart and check resistance. All right, guys, unplug this. Make sure you get to the harness side, not the side that goes to the computer, which is this one. And we're just going to set our thing to ohms. And I always check, here's a little tech tip, I always check this. Just touch the meter leads, make sure it's really low, 0.1, that sounds about right. All right, there's always some resistance, it's never perfect. So then we're going to test these. And you want to make sure you isolate these. You don't touch them with your fingers because it'll try to push electricity through your body, and that'll change the resistance reading. So 99.2 ohms. Now let's fire this thing up and get it warm. There we go. All right, we'll check back in here when we get this hot. All right, it's nice and hot. I guess first things first, let's see if it'll restart. So that's a little bit disconcerting because if it's doing that, this may not have changed. But we'll see if it's changing. All right, so it's 105. That's not terrible. Let's see what's happening with the battery. All right, let's fire up and see if it's charging. Battery is just weak, and so it's not charging very well, and not any fault of the charging system, but because of the battery. That could be causing it to not want to start when you hit the button. So I'm gonna let it get a little bit hotter and see if anything changes. So I took it out for a ride, got it hot. It's starting just fine. I talked to the customer though. He bought this bike about 9 months ago. He hasn't touched the battery. The battery does look old. And I talked to him about it. I think we're just going to get a new battery in there. The other thing I found was that the air filter was disgusting. Yeah. So we're going to do a new one of those, and then get it back to him and get it out in the wild and see if it does it again. I think it should be good. Now, guys, it is time for some mail time. I have a ton of mail time to do. So, yeah, hang on. All right, we're starting with this one. I actually ordered this for myself, but I'm super excited to get this from Mr. Woody at Seat Time, and so many stickers, so much awesomeness. Yeah, this is so rad. Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's lovely, lovely card. Thank you so much. But I ordered from Mr. Brian one of his limited edition 1 down, 5 up Seat Time shirts. Super excited, and it looks like he threw some extra stuff in for me. Koozie and another shirt, which is awesome, and then a million stickers. Brian, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. I am stoked to represent. Yeah, I thank you, and thank you for your friendship. And guys, if you haven't listened to it, I think by the time this video comes out, I was on the Seat Time podcast talking about the Shady Burrow Enduro, and it I think is going to be pretty sweet. So make sure you check that out. All right, guys. Next is from my good buddy Ian Houseman, Nick, and Jesse from Uphill Motorworks. They sent me this awesome card, first of all, which everybody should like. I don't even know who painted that originally, but I like it. Wishing love and happiness from Uphill. And they sent me this rad hat, 50-1 Uphill Motorworks, Crested, Butte, Colorado. If you guys are ever in Crested, Butte, you need anything for your dirt bike, make sure you see these guys. They're awesome, folks. I'm going to be seeing Ian this weekend at the Monte Vista race. Can't wait for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, there's actually something else in the box from Uphill. Very excited because they know how much I love coffee. I love the smell of two-stroke in the morning. Yes, I love it. Thank you guys so much. I will be enjoying coffee out of this actually very, very soon. I got some hot coffee over there we're going to pour into this because it's just way cooler than a normal mug. All right, one of the other things, I actually already took it home, so sorry I can't show it here, but Barry Hannenberg sent me a whole bunch of hand-tied flies for fly fishing. Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much. If you are a fly fisherman or woman, then you know how expensive those flies are and how much time it takes to tie them. Thank you, Barry. I really, really appreciate that. So super stoked. I got one more thing. I'm actually not going to unbox it, but I'm going to show you because I'm going to film a separate video all about it. All right, guys. Last thing. Here we go. Boom. I know this doesn't look like much yet, but from OBD PROG, I'm going to say Obd Prague. I'm actually pretty excited about this. It is a scanner for modern bikes. So this is one of the things that we have not had mainly because they didn't really have a good aftermarket version for us independent shops. I tried one years ago. It was terrible. Didn't really work. It sucked. Anyway, I was contacted by these folks, so full transparency. They gave me this. I think I actually paid 99 cents because they had to show it as a transaction. Anyway, whatever. But they gave it to me. It's free. I'm going to do a full unboxing and all that. I've got a bike to try it out on right here, this 500 EXCF, and it's running fine for us, but it's got a code that flashes every now and then, and so we're going to plug in and see if we can't read that code. So yeah, if you guys want to see this and see how I like it, all that good stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel. They are available to the public. They're $500, I think. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to shoot a video right now of unboxing it and trying it out. So if you guys want to see that, subscribe to the channel and check it out. All right, guys, I have to explain something. We're going to exit the world of motorcycles for a second and talk about Mr. Sheets likes to get me fired up. And he likes to tell me about things he knows that are going to piss me off. So he just told me about that he and Leander are listening to NPR on the way home. That is already a little bit of a trigger for me. But then he tells me that they're doing a story about some Twitch game streamer. I don't even, honestly, it's hard for me to get my head around that, who makes a living playing video games in front of people, which again, pretty tough for me to understand that. It was about him complaining that he had burnout and he was so sad about how hard his life was because he has to just keep playing video games all the time. I don't even know how to express my disdain for that individual and how much I want to punch him in the face. But I have a little bit of disdain for Zach Sheets for bringing it up. He's got me all fired up. Angry. Anyway, back to something cool. Dirt bikes, all right? So this 500 EXC, I was going to hook up that new scanner to it, but I can't because there's no cord for KTMs, and it doesn't seem like, anyway, whatever, it's weird. So I shot a little video on it. Right now it's got a thumbs down because it's really hard to understand how to get it working. I got it kind of working, like on and my information into the thing and whatever, and hooked to the internet. But then after all that, there's no KTM plug, which I specifically told them I needed a KTM plug. Anyway, I was going to plug it into this because this had a code flashing, and when it would flash, it was a little engine light would flash. It would idle high and not run so great and all that. Anyway, so I figured I'd check it out, and I fired it up. And the first thing I noticed, and sorry, I didn't bring you along for all this, I should have, but I'll explain it. The first thing I noticed was that the fan came on almost immediately. I was like, okay. I know that these fans are controlled by an engine temp sensor, not a radiator temp sensor, so I was like, that's interesting. Then I went and rode it, and after I got it warm, I would stop, and it would idle really high. The light didn't come on, but it would idle really high. Then I looked down, he's got one of these temp sensor radiator caps. I looked down, it was still in the cold, like under 100, you know, whatever room temperature, outside air temperature is. So, because I've actually ridden motorcycles that didn't have computers on them and bikes with carburetors, it's like, it seems lean to me, like maybe it's getting hot. So I took the radiator cap off right after I got done riding, even when the radiator fan was running, pulled it off, very little to no coolant at all. So filled it up, ran it. As soon as it pumped some coolant through some things, the fan turned off. I went and rode it, quit idling high. I think we fixed it. Now, I'm a little bit concerned that he rode it for a while like that, and hopefully he didn't do any damage, but you never know. So something simple, guys, it can be just that simple. I mean, this bike is in really good shape otherwise. I don't know where the coolant went, but yeah, check that stuff. You got to check your coolant. I've actually been guilty of not doing that and have my kid damage his engine on his 100. So yeah, it's one of those things you got to do. So now I'm going to just take the tank off and fix, because I noticed also when I looked, you can see, there you go, line severed because it probably got real hot. blew coolant out, and for whatever reason he didn't tell us. So yeah, gonna put a new line on that, and I think this thing's gonna be ready to rock and roll. Also, I have parts, not all of them, for the RZ. I'm gonna be taking the headers off and reattaching those with new gaskets, because I think that's what was wasn't running quite right. One cylinder was a little different, like the plug color was a little bit different. Ran pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna fix that hopefully this week in this Shlog also. Is we're gonna finally rebuild the top end of the KLX140 that ate the butterfly for the choke screw, went flying into it and chewed a bunch of stuff up. I finally have all the parts, took a little bit, but we got those parts, so I'm gonna go grab the head and yeah, we'll build that thing up. Boom, boom, boom. There's the cylinder head after our buddy Mike Schwartz cleaned it all up. It's so pretty. If you guys watched the old Shlog with this, you know that this thing got dinged really good. Able to clean that up, and the valve seats were perfect, so it should be good. This thing's not a high performance, high heat machine, so those little rough spots shouldn't cause any issues. All right, so grab new valves, put these things in. All right, guys, gonna put the base washers on. Then new valve seals. All right, guys, exhaust valve. Slide her up in there. And the super easy, quick way to check to make sure you don't have any valve guide issues is you grab the stem and try to wiggle it like that, and it doesn't move. The other thing is I like to put my thumb on it, down the seal, and then pull it out. You hear that sound? That sound is the sound of a nice tight seal. So exhaust is good. So quickly take a punch, chuck it up in the vise. That goes through one of the stud holes like this, but obviously, you know, on the bottom. Now I'll get our spring compressor. And someone of you guys asked me which one I like the best. I don't know. I've never used like some fancy high-end one, so I don't know, but this is from Motion Pro and it works just fine. Comes with different heads here, small ones and little bigger ones. This is the 18 millimeter one. Works good for these small valves. And I like to use these tiny little pliers, and these things are things that like to get lost in shops, guys, so you want to hang on tight to them. All right, guys, got the valves in. Now we're gonna put the cam in. I'm not even comfortable hearing you guys talk about this.
You don't wear 3 pieces, fair enough. But the other guy would wear like a suit.
That's weird.
And then the only other times I saw him.
Oh, now I think I need a job at GameStop. Yes. All right, guys, there we go. Head is built. Now we're gonna go check this with some. Actually, we can just do it with brake cleaner right here. Fill that up with liquid. Come under here. Nothing leaking. And there we go. Nothing leaking. Sweet. All right, guys. Now to the motorcycle. We're gonna take that piston off, put another piston on. I've shown that in lots of videos. I'll bring you guys in if there's a specific tech tip, but yeah, we're gonna swap that and clean up the gasket surfaces and slide this thing together. Oh. All right, now we're going to set the piston at top dead center. I'm going to take this cover off and this cover off, and there'll be a mark. I'll show you what that looks like. All right, guys, so on this 140, the nut or the bolt on the end of the crank is a 12, and we're rotating that around, and there's, I don't think any way I'm going to be able to show you what this looks like in there. I'm going to light just in case. But so I don't know. There's a T in there. That's top dead center. There's an F before it. So as you're rotating the crank this way, there's lines on the end of the flywheel, on the outside of the flywheel, and one line comes up and has an F near it. That's fire. The next one is top dead center, because you fire a bike before top dead center. You light the combustion or light the gas before top dead center, so it has a chance to build a flame front right as it gets to top dead center, and then it shoves it down. All right, we got the top end all back together, ready to rock and roll. This thing has this little dowel that locks the cam gear to the cam, and so yeah, I didn't say you weren't ready. So it's got a hole here in the gear, and then there's a slot in the cam. So we're going to take this, push it in. There we go. Now we're going to take our bolt. We're going to get some red Loctite on it. And this is left-hand threaded. All right, we're going to tighten that down. Got to look up the torque spec. I'm pretty sure, I think it's like 14 foot. Anyway, whatever. I'll check it out. I'll try to remember to put it up here, but I think it's like 14 to 20 foot-pounds, somewhere in there. Then, like I said, it's left-hand threaded. Get that thing on there, and then put the cam chain tensioner back in. Then we got to fix the carburetor from what the cause of this whole thing. I'll show you that here in a second. Got the cam chain tensioner in. Everything's tightened up, ready to go. Checked it, rolled it over a few times by hand. That's something you always want to do when you're doing a top end, especially on a 4-stroke, is roll it over by hand. Make sure you don't have anything mistimed and valves aren't going to hit pistons and things like that. So anyway, did that. Now for the offending issue with this motorcycle. This right here. Let's see if I can, there we go. So see that one almost came out too. That little dude came loose. So we're going to take this one out, Loctite it, and then we got a new one, I hope. I think this is the right one. I had to order it out of a carburetor because they actually don't list this specific screw, but fortunately I've seen those screws lots of times in carburetors. They're usually the screw that holds the seat in, like on the Mikuni. So yeah, I'm going to pull those things out, Loctite them up, tighten them down really good, get them back in there, and put this thing together, and we should be running here real soon. All right, just got back from a test ride. The thing works great, sounds good. Sorry it's not running right here because the battery, even though I charged it for quite a while, is all the way dead. So I got a new battery coming. I might be able to actually pick one up today from our batteries places just down the road. But then, yeah, it's ready to rock and roll. So I would say, guys, if you have one of these things, take the carburetor off and make sure those little bolts that are holding that choke plate are Loctited in, because this one definitely caused all kinds of problems, cost this guy lots of money. So, and it sounds like it's kind of a common thing with these. So I would definitely check that if I owned one of these things. And there you go. On to the next job. I'm not sure, but very soon is that Cobra 50. We're going to put a water pump in it. All right, got a new battery in it. Let's check it out. Nice and quiet. If you guys listen closely to my mic, you're a little bit of a ticking. That's a good thing. As a good friend of mine, a very, very good mechanic, once said, loud valves are happy valves. Obviously, it's only in certain situations, but this is a rocker arm style motor, and having a little bit of a tick is a good thing. So thing starts right up, runs really good, battery's charging, everything's working great. So next job. All right, guys, that's the end of the week and the end of the slog. Yes, I am at my house, not at the shop. We are going racing here in just a few minutes, and I just totally forgot to shoot the outro at the shop. So here I am at home getting ready to go racing. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button, especially if you stayed all the way to the end of the video. That would be rad. Punk Rock Club, you guys are my favorites. You know that I love you more than everyone else. And I hope that you get out and spread the gospel of two wheels. And you know what I'm going to say. I desperately hope that what we're doing here at Highland Cycles is inspiring you guys to work on, but more importantly, get out and ride your dirt bikes!